What does it really take to help students succeed? What barriers keep them from graduating? And how are today's higher ed leaders rethinking the path forward? On the Outcomes podcast, listeners hear strategies behind enrollment, innovations driving student success, and lessons learned from campuses across the country. While the show celebrates the wins, it also explores what's next, shifting demographics, emerging technologies, and bold ideas reshaping education at scale. Hosted by James Dressing, the Outcomes podcast uncovers the future of student outcomes, one conversation at a time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Outcomes podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Stephen Ostendorff, Dean of Admissions at Molloy University. With more than 20 years of experience in higher education, he's built a career spanning admissions, enrollment, management, and student affairs. Dean of Admissions, he leads initiatives in strategic enrollment planning, CRM optimization, data-driven recruitment, and integrated marketing efforts. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you on the show.
Happy to be here, James. Thanks so much. And when you say 20 years of experience, I feel kind of old. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And, I think sticking in that lens, I'd love to know your journey a little bit better. What was your journey like into higher education and what led you to your current leadership role?
Thank you for that question. And, as a student, when I was an undergraduate student, I got very involved. Student council president, I had a radio show, I wrote for the newspaper and the magazines. I was the on-campus pizza delivery guy, right? If there was something I could do on campus, I was finding a role into it, which exposed me to the leaders on campus, dean of students, associate dean of students. I got to know the campus center director. I got to know the campus police officers. And I found myself immersed in the college community. And when I graduated, I decided I was going to become a teacher. And the associate dean of students says, "No, you are the person who should do my job more than anybody I've ever met." And I didn't listen to him, became a teacher, was not in love with teaching. And then came back to him a year later and I said, "So what do I do now?" And he's like, "You do what I do." So I found my first job in higher education in 2001. And well, it's 24 years later, I'm still here. So I've worked for small schools across the way, spent a little bit of time doing higher education marketing at a couple different agencies. And this is my second go around with Molloy, and I love it here.
I've got to ask a follow-up question. What was the radio show about?
Oh, Hey Ho Steve-O Radio. This was the 90s, right? So it was all about punk ska. It was that punk ska era. And that was the show that I put on. I had, I think, a 1 a.m. slot on Saturday nights. That was my time slot. So it was very big listenership. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. It was me listening to the radio for an hour.
Yeah, that's a very high volume slot. And then back to kind of the career, what motivated you to focus on enrollment and student success specifically?
From my experience as an undergraduate student, I thought I would be involved in student affairs. Although I started in admissions, I thought the student affairs area was going to be where I wanted to be, helping students with student organizations, activities, clubs, growth, leadership, all those pieces. In my career, when I burned out on that a little bit, I went into higher education marketing and fell in love again with enrollment. The numbers, the data, the stories, how we can really put out who we are in a story and then drive in inquiries, get people excited, and help them on their academic and career journeys. And so after those couple years in marketing, I found myself getting right back into the enrollment side of the world. So,
yeah, it seems like everything is really going well. Going into Molloy University a little more specifically, so it's private Long Island University, roughly 4,000 to 5,000 undergrad and grad students. And you all have been seeing really incredible momentum in first year enrollments. You're up 37% this fall, 57% over the past 4 years. More importantly, you're retaining 85% of students. And, according to Higher Ed Dive, New York State leads the county in the country in colleges closed or merged since 2016 with 13. California has 9 for context. You're seeing really remarkable outcomes that go a lot against the macro factors that we're seeing impact smaller institutions. I imagine from a leadership standpoint, you all are doing something special there. Like, how are you managing your teams? How are you thinking about trying to drive such great outcomes?
Yeah, thank you. We had something very amazing happening here. We are very happy to see the enrollment growth we saw from last to this year. But again, as you said, it's 57% over 4 years, right? We have put the pieces in place. And, I see this in two lenses. I see it as a leadership challenge, and I saw it as a strategic challenge. But the community at Molloy has really come together. We have put the pieces in place to build a foundation in order to really tell our story, and really show students why Molloy is only the right place to go to school, but the right place to grow, the right place to develop, the right place to find that career that makes them feel good about the work that they're doing. And so we've put those stories into play. We've done that through email marketing. We've done it through digital and paid marketing. We've done it through social media. And where we've been working with our search companies and our direct admissions and AI companies, and putting all these pieces together and running a really thoughtful strategy throughout the whole thing. We've added in some changes to our financial aid leveraging, really trying to meet the students where they are. And I think that's the important piece, right? Students are different now than they were when I was that kid in college, right? I would go to the guidance counselor's office and I would say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. I'd go to a drawer, I'd pull out a series of books, look at them and be like, okay, I'm going to apply to these schools. It was a different world. I would also get stacks of mail because I did the PSATs, right? Students today have information coming at them from every single direction, right? They've got parents, friends, counselors, they've got social media, they've got Netflix TV shows and specials, they've got Hulu, they've got TikTok, they've got influencers left and right. And so we have to be able to cut through that noise and become an influencer in their lives. And we have to also, on top of that, influence their influencers, right? So we have to be seen in those places too. And so if we keep thinking about recruitment and retention as, we have an RFI form, you have to fill it out, then we'll give you information, we're going to miss, right? And so we've been working really hard to try and meet those students where they are. They're just a different world. And
Yeah, I really love
I'd be
that.
remiss to say, I also have a fantastic team, and I work with amazing colleagues throughout enrollment management in the institution, including faculty and marketing. Everybody pulls together, everybody comes together. And I think that's one of the biggest selling points of Molloy is our community.
Yeah, I really love that perspective, and I think you're spot on that it's really changing, and students' expectations are changing heavily. The old static world that worked a decade ago, and being able to move slowly and getting in touch with students is much changing quickly. And I think the trend that we hear most frequently is, what schools are doing about AI, and it's a question that comes up in a couple different veins. What are you doing for students in order to help them from an outcome standpoint? And also, how are you thinking about using it to try to drive outcomes from admissions and enrollment? How do you think about it? How do you think about kind of the emerging changes there?
Well, listen, I will say that we're very blessed at Molloy. Our president, Dr. Lentini, is very much focused on developing AI in just about every aspect of the school. So he's put together an AI task force. We're all working together to try and implement AI where it makes sense, when it makes sense, and how it makes sense on campus. One of the first areas where we've really dove into this about last year was we have a AI recruiter. That AI recruiter is College Vine, and her name is Mia. She will call students, she will answer calls, she will email, she will text. And the goal there is that, in order to compete in this world, we're out and more names, right? I have 75,000 names. I have 80,000 names. I have 150,000 names, but my admissions team stayed the same size, right? And so if we're expected to make all those cold, then we are very little with the very time we have left. We're supposed to be reading applications, recruiting, on the road, talking to families, talking to parents. There's just not enough time in the day where one can employ an AI recruiter who is trained on Molloy and Molloy only to make phone calls and reach out and do that work. We're able to do a much better job of reaching those students, and our counselors and the folks that are on the front line talking to students to do that more of their time. It almost makes the process more human, right? Because the AI is doing all that stuff that would take us away from being who we need to be for the students who are ready to say, yes, Molloy is my place, and frees them up to do more of that with those students at the right time when they are ready. Again, meet the students where they are.
I think that's a really interesting perspective on it. And I think you're spot on stating, you have to look for the right problem to solve as well. It's not just a generalist solve where, you can claim, okay, we'll just use ChatGPT to solve everything on campus. Point solutions for the different parts of the funnel that you're trying to solve. That's very, very interesting take.
Exactly. So we're also bringing AI in to help us with some of the transcript processing. Now, I'm going to say it right now. AI is not making decisions on students. I know it's going into the application processing, but it is not making decisions on students. But what it is doing is it's doing some of the manual calculations that we used to have to do by hand for the 8,500 applications that we get, and the AI is doing that in minutes, right? And so I'm freeing my team up to do some of the things that we don't have people for. I don't have a communication strategist. I don't have an events planner, right? But if I'm able to reduce someone's workload by 50, 60, 70%, then I can build that into their job descriptions. So again, it's not replacing people. Our team's not getting bigger. It's also not getting smaller, but we are able to change the of work, rewrite job descriptions, and build acumen in new areas, help people grow in their professions as well, because we have this nice tool.
Yeah, I think that's a really important call out. I think a lot of the AI cycle right now is focusing on job loss and job replacement. And there's a McKinsey report that showed that 60% of current jobs will require significant change due to AI. And I think you're spot on. If you look at the 1960s and an executive assistant using a typewriter, today we have email. It's another evolution in a skill set that, you expect the campus employees to be able to learn and be able to kind of meet the modern tooling. And it's great to hear that it's going very positively from an upskilling standpoint as well. And I think kind of similar vein of questioning, outside of AI, what trends do you think will be most impactful in higher education outcomes in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, there's a few. I think that one of the things that's really starting to change the way students apply to school is direct admissions. And I'll take a step back and say that the flow that we work on, right? We come up prospects, then inquiries, then apps, then accepts, then confirms, then students, right? That's broken. I have students who do not want to come to an open house until they've been admitted. So normally the open house is the piece that gets them to apply or finish their application. Now it's that piece that gets them to explore the institution for the very first time. And so what the direct admissions program does, and whether you do it through Niche or Common App or Sage Scholars or one of the many other direct admissions platforms out there, what it does is it helps students qualify themselves. Right? I want to go somewhere where I'm going to be rejected. I don't even want to spend time visiting a place if I'm not going to get in. And what direct admissions does is it tells them, hey, look, you're admittable. You've got a preliminary acceptance already. We even estimated out a scholarship for you. Now, come to us, fill out a quick form, and we can finish your application. And what I see quite often is that on top of doing the direct admissions, they're also doing the Common App once they found out that they've been admitted or they're provisionally admitted. And so I think that's going to help schools, especially like Molloy, right? Where our admissions policy is if you would meet our criteria, we're going to admit you, right? We're here shaping classes and we're looking for people who want to go to Molloy, who are admittable. And if they're admittable, then it's our job to woo them in. And so for a school like ours, getting more students to self-qualify that they can get in means that we have more students to kind of talk to about why we're the right place for them. So I see direct admissions as one of those things that is going to change, or is in the process of changing admissions as it looks right now.
Yeah, which I think goes back to your early point on trying to meet students where they're at and making it just easier for them to fit their own discovery journey based off the tooling that they want to use and it's a really unique approach. And
they're an instant gratification group, right? They want to know now what's going on, but they're also extremely sensitive to success and failure. They want this is the bit where we have previewed everything we were going to teach them before we taught them, and that's kind of the extension of this. We're previewing that yes, you are admittable. Now come in. right? Now accepted.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I think one last question for you, Stephen. What is one piece of advice you would give to other higher ed leaders that are trying to replicate the same sorts of outcomes that you're driving?
There's a phrase that I live by. That's the way we've always done it is going to kill any progression or any change that you're going to have. So advice is be comfortable being uncomfortable. Try new things. Change. And get your team open to the idea of change. My team is they know me every summer. I say, okay, don't expect an easy summer. We're going to optimize and change X, Y, and Z. We're going to make adjustments. We're going to fix, and we're going to launch at least one new thing every single year, given budget, right? And so if you're going to make a change, you can't keep doing things the same old way. Be okay with letting go of things that aren't working. Use the data to find out that they're not working, but go of some old things and start being open to the innovations, because there's a million companies out there doing a million amazing things. And your population better than anybody. You'll know which ones will your audience will want and which ones that they won't.
Yeah, that's great advice. I agree with you as well. The really cool innovation that I'm seeing in kind of the ed tech space right now is really impressive. And I think kind of going through another growth cycle in that with AI and with other tooling and other tech developments. Where can listeners connect with you or learn more about your work at Molloy University?
I think the best spot is LinkedIn, and it's just my last name. So it's LinkedIn/Ostendorff. And I'm sure in all the show notes and stuff like that, you get the spelling of my last name. I'm not gonna bore you all with the phonetic spelling of it right now. But LinkedIn's the best place. I'm into connecting with anybody, and I'm happy to chat and just spitball ideas if you need to.
Stephen, thank you so much for joining on. We really appreciate having you on the show and sharing all the insights into how institutions can better support outcomes. And thank you for tuning in to the Outcomes Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, I'd love for you to leave a rating or review wherever you listen. And if you know someone in higher ed who's passionate about student success and outcomes, share this episode with them. Thanks for the time, Stephen, and I hope everyone has a good one.
Thanks, James.